Just got in a new head unit for the Tacoma. So take a look here. It's a little bit larger unit, volume knob, nice buttons, and then a tuner. So this is where your hazard's gonna go. And then in here's that clock. Got the wiring kit with it. I already have an aftermarket unit in there, so I don't know if I'm gonna need to even bother with a bunch of this wiring. But we'll see. And then if you look here, we got the wiring definition diagram for Tacoma 515. It looks like A, B, E, and G. I won't be using because I don't have Bose and I don't have a backup camera. So I'm just looking at A, B, and D. So let's go pull it apart and see. Sorry, it's getting a little dark in here, but this is my current head unit, this Boss Elite. I've been getting this off of Crutchfield, but I'm pretty sure this is my third one. Unfortunately, it keeps dying after about a year, maybe a year and a half. So we're replacing it with the larger one. And you can see the fit kind of always had a gap. And I've tried to use washers to get it to fit in here better, and it kind of always made like a rattling noise down here, but we're replacing it. So you can see side by side, this hazard and the clock is going to go in here. You can see how much larger the screen is going to be. So I think this is probably going from like an 8-inch to a 13-inch. And you can see we got the old unit out and the wiring in here. So this is that Crutchfield wiring harness that I've previously done. And in here I got, you know, a backup camera, subwoofer, and I believe I have a hardwired USB in here somewhere, but it's probably hiding right here. So I have this USB, and then down here I have my other USB in, so I can keep my phone plugged in here while I'm driving without having like a wire sneaking out of the dash. All right, so it's a couple days later and I got the device finally hooked up. It's currently connected to my phone, and you can see we got CarPlay here. The screen is a little laggy, but it's not too bad. You know, I would say that the physical appearance of this device is definitely of high quality. Like, I like the knobs, the buttons are nice. I guess if you have data hooked up to this, you can use this kind of stuff. I don't have the radio hooked up. I never use the radio. But yeah, you can kind of scroll through a bunch of stuff here. All right, that's annoying. There's some random like preloaded songs on here. And same thing with like the video. What the heck? Yeah, if you go look, you can see they just have like a random video hooked up. As far as power going to the speakers, I'd probably say it's probably around 20 watts per channel. So 20 watts per speaker, which is very similar to the last one. I was hoping for something a little bit better, so maybe I will do a amplifier to my door speakers. I currently have a subwoofer in the back, but that's another thing. They do have good like audio tuning here, so I kind of turned down all the bass going to the subwoofers, and I just picked one of like the preset EQs. But they don't have a low pass filter or a high pass filter for the door speakers or the subwoofer. But settings wise, you can't really customize too much. I think there was like a couple of backgrounds you could pick from. When I turn on my headlights, it dims just ever so slightly, which is kind of annoying because at night it is a little bit too bright for my taste. But overall, it's a good purchase for the money, I think, just because it was on the cheaper side. And then to get back to CarPlay, you gotta click this Z-Link 5, and then from here it works, you know, as normal. But overall, it's a pretty good device. The maps can be a little bit laggy. Like I noticed that instead of it being like a smooth motion of you driving, it'll kind of like jump along the line. Not the biggest issue by any means. I think it's perfectly fine for just day-to-day use. I think the overall look in the truck, I think it looks great compared to the last one. I kind of like the glossiness here. I do see like a little bit of like fitment issues. Doesn't line up like 100%, and I do think that could be from maybe my clips that I had to reuse. A little bit more worn out. You can see maybe it's just a little bit of like the curvature of the plastic isn't exact either, but it doesn't really make noise, and it's very solid. So overall, I like it. I think it's a nice upgrade. It's good for the money. I noticed one other thing. So I have my USB here so I can charge my phone, but when I have it plugged in, it'll tell me that the car is charging my phone, but it never goes up. Like it must be less than like 5 watts charging the phone. So I've been using just the cigarette lighter here because it is wireless CarPlay. You do not need to have it plugged in like the last device. But overall, I'd give it like a maybe an 8 out of 10 on like physical quality, and then for like software, probably like a 6 out of 10. But overall, I can't really be too mad for like $180.